Hi, welcome back. So a couple videos ago, we were talking about defenses. This will be part two in an exploration of defenses and how they relate to awareness practice. So I want to invite you into some awareness practice with me here first, and then we'll talk a little bit and reflect on the nature of defenses and how we all have these different defenses that we've gathered through the course of our lives. Like, this is just part of being human. Anytime in our lives we've been confronted with facts or feelings or experiences that we found really hard to accept or haven't known how to deal with, we tend to take on some kind of defensive strategy as a way to make it through. And that, it's kind of brilliant, right? It's a brilliant way of surviving. But at a certain point, what happens is it starts to limit your capacity for aliveness and authenticity and self-awareness and real intimacy with others and moving forward in your life. Very often, if you're struggling to move forward in your life, there is some kind of strategy that you've adopted in the past that is no longer working for you or serving you, right? And so there are very common defenses that we all take on for one reason or another. We'll talk about that a little bit today and how to become a little bit more free. So right now, let your inhale deepen through the nose. Take your time, breathing in, take as long as you can, breathing in through the nose, and then very slowly breathe out through the mouth. Try to take twice as long with that exhale through the mouth. Just like that, like you're blowing through a little straw. Most of you are familiar with this now. Take a few more breaths like that, looking for, say, 5 to 10 seconds on the inhale and 10 to 20 seconds on that slow exhale through the mouth. So as you keep breathing like that, feel the places where you're touching whatever you're sitting on right now. Maybe there are places that are also touching the floor. Feel the air against your skin. Feel your breath moving in and out, and be aware of your hands and your fingers and your face. Be aware of your feet and your toes. And stay with that breath for as long as you can or as long as you'd like here, as we drop in together, as we get a little more centered in the moment, embodied, aware. So in the previous video, when I introduced the topic of defenses, we talked about, a little bit at the end, we talked about denial. And we talked about how anytime I pretend to myself that certain facts about my life or about the world, certain things that have happened, certain experiences that I've had, and more importantly, certain emotions, certain feelings that have been there in relationship to my experiences. Anytime I pretend that those are not really what they are, I'm in a state of denial. And I talked about how, it's very common for us to use this word denial, or you're just in denial, or that person is in denial, or this person is denying that something is true, right? We use the concept in common sort of everyday terms, and I think that the psychological, the awareness practice piece of this has to do more than anything with feelings, and with feelings we have about what's difficult in life. And so that may include things that have happened that have made us really sad. It may include things that have happened that have made us really angry. It may include facing where we have power and where we don't, or where we didn't in the past. It may include really coming to terms with the fact that we have been helpless at various times, and that there are things we can't have power over, just in general. And so denial is very powerful. And denial, of course, can be useful at certain times, and indeed really necessary at certain times. But there's a way that awareness practice over time should give us enough compassion and courage and self-honesty to be able to start to look at, oh, where have I not been honest with myself? Where have I been in denial about certain feelings that I have? And out of a great gesture of self-love, where can I get more honest with myself so that I don't have to keep investing that extra energy in keeping up the walls of denial? Because all defenses are kinds of barriers that we create, that create separation inside of ourselves. They create compartmentalization. And typically what that then also does is it means how we see the world, how we see other people, how we show up in our relationships is then also going to be defined and limited by those walls, by those compartments. If I, for example, have never come out of denial, let's say I lost one of my parents when I was really young and it really broke my heart, but I didn't know how to deal with it at the time. And so deep sadness and loss is just something I don't do. When I experience loss now as an adult, or when I get really sad about something now as an adult, I go into denial, I push it away. Maybe I'm really hard on myself. Maybe I just have some sort of way of talking about it or explaining it, or like for example, crying doesn't help anything. Crying's not helpful, right? And so if I have that strategy, that defense against loss or grief, then how might I treat my child or my spouse or my friend or my client or my colleague when they're experiencing loss, when they're in the midst of deep grief? Will I be able to show up as an empathic, supportive, kind human being? Or will I see what they're going through the lens of my own denial and either judge them or disconnect from them, or in some way maybe try and talk them out of it, rather than just being able to be there? And this is not to make a moral judgment on how we should behave, but it is to say something quite specific, which is that I think there is a richness, there's a sweetness, there's an interconnected aliveness and intimacy that's possible the more free we become of our own defenses. That is really, really worthwhile. And I think it's one of the key things about life that we're all longing for. So in that way, I think it's really important. I think it really matters. So another defense, we talked about denial a little bit last time, and we've just gone into some more detail, and you might be coming back to your breath again now and sensing your body. Maybe that example resonated in some way with you. So we make space for that. And I'll just mention that a second defense that we might talk about is rationalization. And a rationalization is any set of thoughts or ideas that we come up with that try to explain what we're really feeling or what is really difficult for us, facts, feelings, experiences that are difficult for us. We try to explain them away or turn them into something they're not. So rationalization is any time we try to play mind games with our reality in a way that covers over something emotionally true that we find difficult. So denial and rationalization often go hand in hand, and that's where we'll stop for today on the ideas, and let's just come back to breath. Maybe put your hands on my chest or my belly. If you can see me, that's what I'm doing. I'll see you next time.